I'm sure all y'all heard of Nurse Jackie, but this is Nurse John over here, and I'm going to give you a little introduction to Foley insertion. Now, the general consensus is you put lubrication on the end of that Foley. But let me just tell you, it is best run dry. You just spit and stick.
You are listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, where nurses, doctors, students, and other healthcare professionals bring you stories from scrubs across the nation. Tune in today with NSR's Derek J.
Okay, this is NSR, National Scrubs Radio. This is your host, Derek, and this is my buddy, John, who, if you can't tell, actually he's not an ER nurse right now. He's a nurse manager, if you can believe that, but welcome to the show, John. How are you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me here, Derek.
Yeah? Is this your normal voice that you're going to be talking to in the whole podcast?
Yeah, I'm actually not from the South. I'm from New York.
Could not tell. But
I think I did a pretty good job, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I live with a guy from Kentucky, so it brushes off on me, and you get a good ear for it. So.
How is that living with someone from the South?
Oh man, let me tell you, the jack never stops running.
Okay, so he's either from Kentucky, Tennessee, or West Virginia.
He's from the state with 3 last names, Kentucky.
All right, man. So
he has an aunt and its cousin.
Oh
no,
my God!
I'm only kidding.
Oh man, how do I bring this back now? I don't even know. How do I? Let's rewind. All right. Look. So you're a nurse manager, right?
I'm an assistant nurse manager, but I'm also a traveling nurse.
So you do both together. How do you manage to balance those?
So a very common thing with nursing is to be a per diem nurse, where you just pick up, generally it's a minimum of four shifts a month.
Okay.
And then I just work a full-time travel contract. So basically the travel contract, they run on 3-month increments. So if I want to take a couple months off in between, I can do that and just pick up more shifts at the per diem job.
Well, see, I was going to see, like, working with all those hours, how do you keep your sanity? But if I was to replay the intro of the show, I'm not sure if
if I have any left.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? One thing I will say is that I think with nursing, you lose that. It's one of those things where you work hard, you play hard.
So you okay?
And I think that some things that a nurse might find funny, a normal person might say that's disgusting or something like that. You know what I mean? So you get
a little dark.
You get desensitized.
A little dark, a little bit.
No. I think you're bringing more light to the darkness.
Oh,
so you
okay.
might look at it as dark, but we see death every day. We see those kinds of things every day. So I think you can kind of find a sense of humor in those things. It's kind of one of those things, if you don't laugh, you cry kind of things.
That totally makes sense, because I mean, if you're even like old shows like MASH or other, ER shows, they have to have that sense of humor to get through.
You have to have thick skin, but you also have to maintain that sense of compassion with your patients and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tough balance. Some people might say it seems dark from the outside,
right.
But when you're in there, it is the light of the business.
Well, see, that's one of the main purposes of this podcast, is really to shine light on how can healthcare workers be themselves and share that with other people. Because I think a lot of times too, like what you said, if someone's looking from the outside, they might see these jokes as like a little dark, a little cynical, but
it's more bringing light to a dark situation, I would say, and I would say probably more than most. I probably have I find humor in just about anything, and and I think for the most part, coworkers and other people kind of appreciate that, even the patients. You know what I mean? I could tell you one story where I had a woman. She was probably 35, and she had cervical cancer, but stage 4, and she was trying all these homeopathic remedies and things like that. And one thing that she needed with every meal was a chocolate Ensure to kind of maintain those calories and stuff like that.
Right.
And then she was making jokes while I was taking care of her, and she was losing a lot of weight, so she lost her ass.
Wow.
Basically is what happened.
Yeah.
And she was making jokes about like her husband not seeing it because there's no going back from that. And so when I came back to work about a week later. Me and her had a lot of laughs and stuff like that. Obviously it's a dark situation, but you can kind of make fun of it a little bit with the right people.
Right.
And I came back in about a week later, and I went in there, and I saw that she was still there. She wasn't my patient, but I went in there and I knocked on the door, and she had said to come in. I walk in the door, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just a delivery guy." I was like, "Somebody ordered a 18 pack of Ensure and an ass." And so I'm here to deliver it. And then she started laughing. It's if you really think about it, it's a dark situation, but humor plays a big role in
I think
keeping
it's
people
recovery,
upbeat. Yeah,
right. I mean, would you agree that humor plays a role in recovery or getting past those moments?
I think it's a huge part of stress relief.
Right.
When you laugh, you kind of let loose, especially when you get one of those good laughs, straight from the stomach.
The belly.
It releases that tension. And, everything is always so serious. And, family members, they don't. If you've ever had a family member that's been sick, you don't go in there and make jokes about them because you're hurting too and they're hurting.
Right.
It's kind of like that. I wouldn't say morbid, but kind of like that kind of depressed kind of atmosphere.
Right.
When you got a nurse that can go in there and, make a few jokes and keep things light. And, I've had countless patients that have said that, that really, made their day and made their week or whatever,
What I've learned with my experience is that people that have learned the tool of humor for recovery, like, let's say you had your patient and you made that joke with them, like, I have the 18 pack of, Ensure, whatever it was, right? Or chocolate, I don't know. But then people that have learned that tool have actually gone through dark moments in their own personal lives. Is there anything that you've gone through that you've kind of learned that tool?
Oh, well, I would say yes. I had a pretty rough childhood growing up.
Uh-huh.
I was probably about the age of 5. Parents that were on drugs and things like that. You know what I mean? So I would say probably from the age of 5 until now, I should say, I've basically been kind of self-sufficient. More so as a couple of years went on, until I was like 8, 9. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I wasn't the average 5, 6-year-old. You know what I mean? I think I kind of took my stress or whatever, and I just kind of like focused my mind on school and things like that. My senior year I had like a 97 overall average. You know what I mean? I was just kind of that's where my outlet was.
So
instead
of falling in the trap of what your parents fell into, you kind of use it in a positive light. You use school, academics, and everything to propel your life.
Yeah, and that was really it. I mean, it's kind of hard. Even like socially in school, I didn't have a lot of like social life in school either. Just because, well, not until high school, like late high school, I would say. Because when you go over there and we don't have parents clean your clothes or anything like that, you know what I mean. You don't get a lot of friends in elementary school and middle school until you really get that individuality in high school. That's when I would say a lot more people are open to your situation. And plus, when you're 14, 15, you can start getting a job, which is what I did. And started buying my own clothes, started doing my own laundry, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So until I was able to do that, even like socially, I was kind of isolated inside of school and outside of school. Outside of school, I mean, my mom and my father were separated when I was like 2 or 3. So it was just basically going from one drug house to, on the weekends going to another one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was kind of.
Well, it's pretty amazing to see you here in front of me, after going through all that. I mean, I feel like a lot of people who would actually experience that wouldn't make it on the other side, like the lighter side, right? Like,
you know what? I think it's a point of self-realization that you go through as you grow up. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was no angel. That's for sure. I did my I did my fair share, my late teens to try and most of it was trying to fit in and trying to find my niche and basically hanging out with the cool kids.
Yeah.
And I was just happy to be a part of some kind of group. You know what I mean? So that's when you start getting into, smoking pot and, experimenting drugs and things like that. You know what I mean? I mean, never a problem, never an addiction or anything like that.
Right.
But just trying things just to fit in, to be cool, and then and then I kind of followed along that path. And I could spend this podcast would run out of batteries if I went through all of my childhood experiences. But
yeah,
it was pretty rough. Sometimes you spend a week without ever even seeing your parents. You know what I mean? You're 8, 9 years old. cutting open cans with a knife.
Yeah.
To get something to eat, But
let me just say this. I think there's a lot of people that be listening to this podcast right now who say, it's not uncommon for nurses to have these experiences a lot of times, because I feel like the resiliency, being resilient in childhood and stuff, kind of gives you that outside perspective of what other people go through. And it's easier to take care of others whenever you've gone through something yourself, such as what you've been explaining in your own childhood.
Yeah, but I would say the majority of our patients are not. I would say majority of our patients I wouldn't put in that same category.
Right.
In general, I think that our ability to care for patients are more ingrained in us than anything, and in your own basic outlook on life. I think that if you have a negative outlook and you're always negative and you're not optimistic or anything like that, I think that generally comes through on how you care for your patients. I mean, I've seen patients, or nurses, I should say, or workers that have absolutely no personality. They didn't go through anything tough in life or whatever.
No,
they just have no personality. They have no compassion for anybody. And I've also seen
absolutely,
and I think that for the most part, the people that have been through kinds of things that I've been through, for the most part, they don't make it that far. They choose other paths. You know what I mean? Which I could have easily fallen through, but
absolutely.
Luckily, I made those changes.
So we've gone we touched base a little bit as far as the things that you grew up with. So share your experience after school, like after high school. How did you get into healthcare eventually?
Well, I was sitting in a senior class of economics class.
Yeah.
I forget the teacher's name, but I could tell you that he was old and bald. He would go on these rants about the economy and things like that and jobs, and obviously it was an economics class, right? But well, he mentioned
I think that goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
but
right?
yeah.
So he mentioned nursing. He's like, hey, there's Niagara County Community College. It's 20 minutes from here, and there's this huge demand that's coming in the coming years for nursing. Especially baby boomers getting older, and they're going to need more medical care and things like that. So he said, you can go there for 2 years, get an associate's in nursing, and you come out making, well, this is in New York, upstate New York, granted. So he's like, you can make $55,000-$60,000 a year as a nurse with a 2-year degree, and you really can't beat that. And you have the best job security in the world, basically. Me being, I loved learning, I loved school, but one thing I hated was, you can't tell me that it takes a 20-page paper to give you an answer about a question I can answer in a paragraph.
Right.
I think that just kind of drew me away from, going to be a doctor or anything like that, just because, I think it's I'm not a big fan of wasting my time. As in, which other people might think that a degree is, but it is worth that time and that headache. But I just don't see a point in spending $200,000 to write 20-page papers and something I can tell you in a 5-minute conversation. I'd rather have the conversation.
Right.
If I can go through college, 8 years of college, having conversations and answer essay questions, you can count me into a triple PhD over here. but yeah, so that was actually the original reason I went into nursing, was purely for job security, economics, and hey, 2 years of college and I get all that. And I said, sign me up.
So it had nothing to do with old, like naked people in gowns and dealing with
what?
And...
As much as a wrinkly ass sounds appealing, it's
does it sound appealing? I don't. I have
you
John's friend here that's shaking his head no. That's sitting next to him.
You can shape that thing any way you want. You got so much loose skin, but anyways, but no, it was real.
Is there Botox for a wrinkly butt?
I don't know. That'd be one's saggy frying pan, But but no, it was.
I wonder if this is going to make the final cut. We'll
see. But no. Generally, that's the reason why I got into nursing was purely for the economics. I don't think I really came. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, I think, and things like that. So really, the people and personal aspect of it really wasn't a big factor. I really haven't found my passion yet. But then I started going for nursing. I mean, I didn't know how to wipe an ass. All I know is that they tell you front to back, and that's really the guidelines I went by. But I just had during school, I just had the other nursing students, help me wipe butts and stuff, So,
So is
it was I had no idea what the hell a nurse even did.
So instead of
I had no idea what a nurse did.
So instead of 20-page papers, you're like, oh, this is how you wipe a butt.
Yeah, it's 20 papers wipe an ass. So it was So that's basically how it started out, but you know what? It was I was still in my finding myself phase, So I was still drinking and partying, and I was 17 when I first started college, so I was still hanging out with my friends, and they weren't in college, so I was the only one in college, so they're still partying, having fun, and so I was, and I had never really studied before, everything just kind of came to me.
Well, I've known you for a while. Okay, well, we met out here in California. And I know that you were used to be in the Marines.
Yeah,
you're a former Marine. How did you get involved in the military and then nursing? How did this?
So so after about a year of going to the community college, actually it was probably 2 years, I failed a semester of nursing because I didn't study. I didn't give it the dedication that it deserved. Nursing is not. I could tell you the antidote for heparin overdose, but I couldn't tell you that the first thing you do when you walk into a room in a code situation is put a bedboard in the, you know what I mean? It was kind of like that what do you do first kind of scenario.
Not really organized.
It wasn't really like just a factual kind of this is the answer, which I could have done and went through nursing school no problem, but it was more of that what do you do first, and it was always like put the head up or throw 2 liters of oxygen on, but I'm already 3 steps ahead thinking about the antidote of the problem,
Right.
So it was kind of hard to get that down. So after about 2 years of going to school, I ended up I was going to summer school just to kind of finish my degree just in associates in arts, and I ran into a Marine recruiter, and I was like, hey, I play Call of Duty, and I'm really digging his uniform here, so I was like, hey, I started talking to him, and I started really getting into fitness, and I started working out every day, and a few months later I ended up shitting off to the Marines. And but I was dating a girl there for.
I just want to clarify. Did you say shipping off to the Marines? I just want to.
Shipping, or I could have been shitting.
Like,
I could have been shitting the whole way there, but
I think you had nursing in your head when you're talking about the Marines. I just want to make sure you said shipping. All right. I have John's friend nodding for very
Are you shitting? I said shitting. Well, maybe I was shitting all the way to the Marines.
Man.
But no, I was shipping off to the Marines.
Okay. All right.
So I went there, and I think another part of it was, I was still, hanging out with friends and. Smoking pot all day and drinking every weekend or whenever I could, really. So I was kind of like, I think I just decided it was time to get out of that atmosphere and prove something to myself that I could. And I picked the hardest one. I picked the Marines, and I still stand by that.
I thought the Coast Guard was harder.
No, they're a bunch of fucking pansies. No, that's a joke. But anyways, so I picked the Marines as the hardest one I heard. So I was like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to test myself.
Yeah.
So I eventually did that, and I was dating a girl there at the time for it ended up being like a 9-10 year relationship, but at this time it was probably 4 years in. I went off to the Marines, so I picked the reserves, so I would stay in New York. And,
so after the Marines, okay, you did your stint for how long in the Marines, by the way?
I did 6 years when all was said and done.
6 years, okay, so it's pretty long stint in the Marines.
But I was in the reserves, so I went. So after about 2 years, I had that discipline. I had that, I would say that the Marines definitely. Made you more accountable, it made you more responsible, it made you more respectful.
It
molded you a little bit, and it kind of sets you on that straight path, and it gives you that self-confidence. It gives you those things. So then I was in the reserve, so you only do 4 or 5 days a month. So I went back and went back to nursing, went back to the school and tried to get reinstated. They started me off right where I left off. Yeah, so I started back with the nursing, and it was actually the last semester I would have been able to before all my prereqs expired. So it was almost like I don't even know what came over me. It was one day I was like, you know what, I gotta do something else. I went there, and a couple more months or another month or a few weeks, or I don't even know, I don't remember now, but I would have been SOL, shit out of luck.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So whenever you left the Marines, you got back into nursing, it looks like.
I did, yeah. So, I was in the Marines. I started going back to school.
Oh, why
you were in the Marines? The last few years of the Marines, I was already an RN.
So, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
What did you do out there? Did you see any combat, or did you?
No, not in the Marines. I was in the reserves. So
At the reserves.
so only
Gotcha.
only like 5 days a week I went there to train and get up to speed. I mean, you can still go on deployments and stuff. You know?
Gotcha.
But I went to school on my off time, and I went over there and finished, got my degree. So I mean, you're working as a nurse and you're still doing your 5 days a month in the Marines.
Got it.
And yeah, so that's basically how that goes. And but the thing is that your job can't have an issue with the 5 days that you're with the Marines.
So you, after you left the Marines, you went back to New York and you did some more nursing. Correct?
No.
No?
I was stationed in New York. I was stationed at home.
I did not know that. Okay,
I was stationed at home because that's the whole point of the reserves. The whole point of the reserves is that you stay at home, you can go to school, you can work your own same career. But obviously, if the duty calls, then you have to go, and you still have to have those days set aside every month for the training.
So, what made you decide to do travel nursing once you left New York?
You know, I think I just wanted to. Part of it was the money.
Okay. Well, okay. Let's touch base on that. Travel nursing is very lucrative. It can be very lucrative, especially depending on what state you work at.
That's right.
I would say most states actually. You make more money travel nursing. There's a lot of tax benefits. I mean, that's a whole different podcast.
I can make more money 50 miles away from where I was working. I can make double the amount that I was making in a permanent position.
Right.
Yes, in the same state, in the same 50 mile an hour away.
So first was money. Okay, what were the other situations?
Well, you want to explore the country. I mean,
Right.
I think everyone has a little piece of that in them, that they want to go and experience new things, check out the rest of the country. It was the scheduling. I mean, you do 3-month contracts. You can request time off in the middle of those contracts if you have it in your contract, or you can, in between those 3-month contracts, you can kind of, you can take a month off. You can take 2 months off. You can take 6 months off if you want.
And didn't you do a safari? Or didn't you take time off or something? And then
I did. So basically what I did there for about 2 years is I would go to a place for 3 or 5 months. I mean, I was at Syracuse University for 7 months. I was at Johns Hopkins on a bone marrow transplant for 5. I went to Kaiser Santa Rosa. I was there for 3 months. I mean, in the Bay Area. I've been in the Bay Area here traveling for about 2 years now, 2.5 years probably. So you go around, and on your off days, you work 3 days a week, 3/12s, and your 4 days off that you have, you can go over there and travel around the metropolitan areas of where you're at, which is, I mean, amazing. I loved Baltimore. I really liked Walnut Creek in the Bay Area. I went and did Hawaii.
Yeah,
I was in Hawaii for 3 months. I went scuba diving almost every freaking day. I bought all my own gear, $15. So you go jump in the water and have an hour of fun, So, but then in between, I would go on vacations. So I would basically save up whatever money I could in those 3 months or 5 months or 7 months that I was working, and then I would take a month off. And for example, I went to Kenya and Tanzania. I went out there for about a month. I went on safari, visited a friend,
and had your laptop stolen.
A laptop was stolen by a prostitute, but I did not.
That's a true story, by the way. That's actually a true
story.
Absolutely
a true story. Somebody, a friend that I was staying with, we went out to his mother's country, whatever, his mother's place in Kenya, and was out in the woods and whatever, cooking food over a fire. His brother stayed behind, and while his brother was behind, he apparently got drugged by a prostitute in Kenya, and when he woke up, everything was stolen.
Do you think like he was just fibbing, or you think that was the?
Oh, I think he was full of shit. I think he went over there and sold it. But the thing is that we ended up getting it back about 2 months later.
Good for you.
We got it back. It never really ran right, and the keys were sticky, but it was. But eventually, it was. I took all the info off of it, put it on a new computer, but whatever. But it was a great experience. I mean, I went to Costa Rica. I went to.
So it allowed you the flexibility
Cancun.
to travel.
I mean,
and see different parts of the world, different parts of the country.
Yes, went to Alaska. I went all over the place, kind of traveling and exploring places, trying new things.
So when you got done, or I should say that you are still traveling nursing, but you also have a part-time or some type of assistant manager position, right?
Yeah, so the Northern California is the highest paying area in the country.
Well, how
hands down.
So how was a transition, because you've been a what we call, I guess, a bedside nurse, right, for a long time. What was the transition from doing that? You're still doing it, but also being assistant manager.
I would say it's a lot different. So I wasn't really happy doing bedside for a certain company. And I was going to work unhappy and frustrated just because of the culture. So I was like, you know what, I need to change. I was still being a travel nurse out in Sacramento, and I absolutely loving it out there, and the culture there was great. So I ended up becoming an assistant nurse manager in my other job and kept it as a per diem. So I only had to do 4 shifts a month, but I could possibly do, as many as 5 a week. You know what I mean? So it's you kind of make your own schedule. And the transition, so I basically got tired of working the other per diem, so I became the assistant nurse manager to try something new, kind of spread my wings a little bit, get a little bit something different as far as experience. And it's a big transition, but I just go in there with the mentality, I work hard, and I'm trying to instill that culture that you do something for somebody else because without you even knowing they're doing something for you behind you. Just trying to instill that culture, and it's hard to manage all these different personalities, and you have some people that just don't have the work ethic of others, and you're trying to get them to.
You're not just managing the patients now, right? You're managing the staff, which is a totally different ballgame.
Managing the staff, but you know what? I would say that in a lot of ways, it's almost just like being a floor nurse. It's just as a floor nurse, you're kind of like, here comes the assistant nurse manager. What are they gonna say to me? Or I'm going to have an admission or whatever.
Right.
On the other end of it, as an assistant nurse manager, you're like, oh, man, I have a meeting with the manager. And
right.
What are they going to say I'm falling short on as of metrics and and Press Ganey scores or anything like that? You know what I mean? So it's all it all really is we all have responsibilities. And, as much as they hate taking an admission, an assistant nurse manager doesn't necessarily like giving the admission, but at the end game is there's certain things that need to be done, and everyone needs to come together and get it done. You don't want to get an admission as soon as you get a discharge, but ultimately that's what's best for the patient. And then they kind of, as a floor nurse, you kind of, it's just a stressful job. It's probably a stressful job in the world. I would argue with somebody,
right.
You're balancing lives and also metrics and all these responsibilities, all these little T's you have to cross and I's you have to dot, and you know what I mean. And it's really tough. You don't chart it, you didn't do it. But if you did chart it, you did do it, even though you didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's a lot of what the healthcare field is.
Yeah, I've never heard that said before, but that totally makes sense because I know exactly what you mean by
I've thought about it a lot. What the funny thing is that the more you chart, the less time you're actually in the patient's room, and the more chance it is that you're not actually doing what you're charting. But the less you chart, the more you're in the patient's room, and actually the more care you're giving. So it's a balancing act. But some companies have the scales dipped a little in one direction rather than the other.
Got it. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast here at NSR. Thank you so much, man, for being a guest, dude.
You know what? It was a real pleasure being here, and hopefully we can make this a John Rowland series. And volumes 1, volume 2, volume 3.
You're welcome any back to record
we
this.
Start doing restaurant reviews. We can do whatever you want. We can talk about whatever you like.
You want to create like a nursing Yelp, pretty much.
Yeah, there we go. You guys pick the subject and we'll talk about it.
There you go, man.
Thank you so much for listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, with your host, Derek J. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit Facebook and Twitter @NatScrubsRadio. We'll catch you next time.